it's football Sunday, and there are a lot of people in my hometown who are unreasonably hopeful about the outcome of today's sports ball match. And I may have gone on Facebook and, where they were posting these little things that show one team crushing the other and they all put thumbs up and smiles. I did the ha ha.
It's also the
I'm a terrible
anniversary of the
person.
Heidi Bowl.
What's that?
It's also the anniversary of the Heidi Bowl.
Tiny bulk. Hold on to that thought for a second. We don't have an agenda per se, but Adam has a joystick.
Oh, well, we
So,
do. I do want to say what we're watching right now. This is
oh,
November 17th, 2024, and
oh,
you are watching the Timex Sinclair 2068 meeting.
thank you, Adam.
Yeah.
So with that, Adam, you have a joystick.
Oh, am I talking? Okay.
Yeah,
I
what the
thought we
heck?
had.
We'll just jump right
Okay.
in.
Well, sure. Before the meeting started just a couple of minutes ago, I was showing that I have this 2090, right? Is that what it is?
2090.
Yeah.
It should say it
The
right on the side, doesn't it?
it,
Or just
no.
does it just say command stick or something?
Yeah. I don't know. Can you see this pretty good, you guys?
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
there's no number on it. I'll be
Yeah, there's
darned.
no number. So this
Okay.
is the joystick that was made by Time. Well, it was made by Timex and released in '83. Apparently, they're quite rare. And David sent me one because he would like me to do a little um, video about it for YouTube. And it's based on the Channel F joystick. Is that right, David?
Um, yeah, yeah. It started out as life as the joystick used for the Fairchild Channel F video game system, and it had a triangular
Yeah, the knob
a
on top is
knob
yeah, yeah.
right up at the top, but it also
Hmm.
did other things like you could turn it. Like I think there was a potentiometer or something inside.
Yeah, I've used the Channel F one, and it's not a potentiometer. It's like you can go back and forth. I think,
Okay,
like
so
kind of
maybe
like
there's
90 degrees or something like that. It's
You
been a
can
while.
some
also press
switches.
it and push it
Yeah, you can
Okay,
press it down. It's called the
and push
plunger.
it.
okay, all right. So way more features than this version
Right, than this
got.
joystick. And this has got a teeny tiny, I expected like a larger fire button. It's tiny. It's like,
Child
I'm,
sized.
yeah, and it feels like it's super like, oh, if you press me once, I'm gonna break, but I don't know. We'll find out. It works. So what I was saying before the meeting was I tried this with Androids, that game by Timex,
Yeah.
and that's just a test case because I could go up, down, left, right, and fire. But with this joystick, I could go up, kinda, down, kinda, right, no, left, not at all, and right, sort of, kinda. So probably maybe I don't know what this even looks like inside, but I was figuring what I'd do is I'd open it up, hopefully without tearing this sticker.
Yeah.
And it's got just a couple screws, 3 or 4 screws. I don't know. There's some screws here and here. And I guess it maybe snaps apart. I don't know. But I figured I'd show on camera me breaking this thing, opening it. And so I could make a little video about it. And then once I
Adam,
get it working, go ahead.
if you're curious,
Oh,
can you
oh,
see
let me,
that?
Oh,
can you,
I
oh,
interesting.
opened mine
I'm
up
gonna
because
spotlight
my
you.
my label's already been cut, so
okay.
I didn't have to worry about it. Um,
Oh,
so yeah, here, there we go. So you have this metal band here. This
all
is
right.
round, right?
Uh-huh.
Each one of these contacts, there's four of them around the outside of the square
Okay.
guts, right? Each one of those is an up, up, down, left, right
Right.
Okay.
contact. So this, if yours isn't working, either these little
Our
tabs
bench
here need
probably.
to be bent,
Hmm.
or most likely just cleaned.
Um,
Okay.
So
Jo-
it's very fiddly to get it apart. So don't have your dog in the room with you. Yeah. Um, but yeah, and then there's these two little metal rods that need to
What
be.
are those for?
I don't know. They fell out when I opened it up.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
Maybe
okay.
they're pivot pins.
Where are they?
I believe they're pivot
In the
pins.
back. Okay.
Joe,
Sort of serves like an axle.
Right. I see now. But they were rattling around loose in mine when I got it. It made a rattling noise, so I knew I had to take it apart anyway. So
All
I
right.
just haven't started yet.
So Joe, I was noticing when you were showing yours that your fire button is square. Mine is round.
Oh no, there's the button that you see on the outside.
Oh,
It is
okay.
a square
On the inside.
I
on the
see.
outside. Yeah, can you see
I
that
see.
well enough? Yeah,
Yeah,
kind of
okay.
small, but yeah. Um, but yeah, that was a common button back in the day. They still make this exact same one, just without that uh, nipple on the end there, the square.
Oh, you mean the button itself?
The whole button itself, yeah, can
Okay.
be replaced. So
Okay.
those do go bad as well.
Joe, um, do the little metal fingers, do they contact the ring? Is
Yeah,
that
so when it's in its like natural position, um, it doesn't seem to make contact. I'm having a hard time seeing down in there, but it looks like there's something blocking this tab from actually making contact in the center there.
okay?
Uh, so we've got this. Let's see, get a good view. Okay, so you got this bigger tab, and then these two smaller tabs, one on either side.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that actually make or break contact, and this is just a spring to center it.
And what do those things contact? That metal ring above?
The metal ring around the outside, which is ground all the way around.
Okay.
Yeah, or common, I should say. It's not necessarily ground.
Right.
Depends on the system. But yeah, that this ring right here is common to
What's
down
that
left.
red thing on the side of the stick?
What's that?
What's that red thing on the side of the stick? Is that a sticker or something?
No, it's just a piece of plastic
Oh,
that goes through the middle,
yeah.
like it was made to have some other thing in there, but it's just a blank as far as I can.
Okay.
Maybe that's apart from like the Channel F days. I mean, I don't know how close this actually is to the Channel F days. I don't know if it's made the
We
same
should get a
inside.
Channel F stick or
Oh,
Zircon.
okay, sure. I'll just sell my house.
Really? Oh, come on. I
Are
think
they
I've
that
seen them on.
expensive?
All right.
Channel F stuff's kind of expensive now, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Has anyone here have experience with those? The Channel F, they're pretty cool little systems.
It's really old.
Yeah,
I
like
know
76, I think.
the Lord ZX Museum have one. I played with one once I was there because we were trying to understand how it worked,
Hmm. Yeah, that one
and
has
it
the F8
worked,
processor.
and we played some games. I think there are old games there. Not sure.
What would you said they were old? Is that what you said?
All games, all
Oh,
the games
oh,
released by it for it
okay.
to be used on street gaming.
Yeah, there was
I
yeah,
only played like 3 or 4 because I had other things to do, and
Well, that's
there
a weak
was
excuse.
there was another person from the museum trying all the games if they were working. I jump on occasionally to see and try it,
yeah.
and that's why I know it. You can twist it, you can push it,
Mhm.
and you can press it.
Yeah, pressing it is the same. It doesn't actually have a fire button, right? It just pressing
No,
it
it
down is
does
the
not
fire
have.
button. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
oh, I could see where that would be a problem.
Yeah. I mean, it was the first real console, so
Yeah, it's funny you should say that because I'm looking at. Let me just share my screen here. So I'm looking at these Zircon sticks, and yeah, there's no
Yeah.
trigger.
yeah.
No,
No trigger button. I don't need to see the box. Thanks very much. I think there we go. That's what I want. Interesting. Okay. Well, Adam and Joe, I ordered this this set of sticks.
Just now?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. It was $29.
all
I
right.
Oh,
ordered
really?
it for $29.
Oh, then I'm wrong.
It says well, these are Zircon sticks. These are not theoretically they're not Channel F sticks.
Okay.
So
then
this is the company, by the way, that Zircon,
Yeah.
I think bought out the joystick at least, if not the Channel F system. And so this is who I suspect manufactured the Timex joysticks for Timex, just like West Ridge manufactured the 2050 modem.
And they made the Naboo ones too, right?
Who really?
The what? What's the Naboo?
There's Naboo joysticks.
Yeah.
Oh, is that one that came out recently or semi-recently in the last couple of years? They found a warehouse of them down in South America or
Canada.
something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, let's see what's that. Oh, look at that. You're right.
Is that what I think it is? Yeah, that one. That's
Joy
the-
Boo? Is that what they call it for real? Come on.
What?
Joy.
That's what it says.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
stop sharing my screen
But
because
it
it's
had
like
the
in all
button.
places.
Right? It had the button that the Fairchild.
Yeah, there's a button there.
A fire button.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like the Timex Sinclair ones. But yeah.
Hmm.
I don't think it fired by pushing down.
Okay.
Let's see here. That's a gamepad. Yeah, okay, that's not what we're looking for. Okay.
Oh, that's a homemade one though, right? That's not from back in
This?
the day. Yeah.
I have no earthly idea.
Yeah, that can't be from back in the day. 'Cause that it looks like the NES, but like I think the Naboo's
Yeah, it
from the
says
early
created
days, right?
by customer request for the Naboo system. Okay,
Okay.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Naboo was this weird Canadian thing. That you connect connected to the cable network, and that's I guess how software and other jazz was delivered. And year or two ago, some dude opened his garage and found 100 boxes of them.
Right. Yeah.
And people have since gone crazy. Anyway, when I get those, I'll send you each one of those joysticks, and you can do a comparison contrast.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. Joe can take it apart and figure out what the inside looks like and what's different.
Yeah.
And and you can see if it actually these ones, they say they're tested and they work.
And
So,
they probably are going to be Atari compatible, so they would actually work in
yes.
2068.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, as a matter of fact, that's what Zircon did, is that they they brought their joystick out in like 82 or something, and it got reviewed in like Creative Computing, I think. There's an article on joysticks, and whoever reviewed it really liked it, which weird two-handed mechanism.
yeah. Well, I mean, most joysticks are two-handed, right? Aren't they all? Like,
Well,
yeah.
Like the Atari 2600 joystick, right? This is
Yeah.
a big old brick that you hold in your hand, or down on the desk or table, right?
Yeah.
As is most,
feet.
the design of most joysticks is like that. There's a little base and
Yeah.
joystick, and there was another design that was what I would call even worse, and it had mercury switches in it, mercury tilt
Oh.
switches.
I know what you're talking about. I had one of those back in the 90s.
Imagine that.
Yeah. It worked though. It was old and it worked fine. I mean, it wasn't usable, but it had nothing wrong with it. It was awful because I don't know if I'm highlighted right now or if you can see me, but like you would just move like this to move left and right, and it was like you had to exaggerate your movements pretty, like I don't know how much you can tell, but like you couldn't just go like that to
Oh,
move
really?
left and right. Yeah, you had to, at least mine, you had to exaggerate your movements quite a bit. Yeah, and I think I tried playing with Star Raiders, if anyone's familiar with that game on the Atari, and it was kind of cool, but
Yeah.
not. I forget how you fired with it. Maybe there's a button.
I think there was a button on top,
Yeah.
little push button, because it looked like the handle was like some sort of weird foam,
Oh gosh, I don't
or was
remember.
it
This was like 30
like
years ago.
BMX bicycle grip?
I don't remember. It's been a
Okay.
long
That was
time.
like
Yeah.
one of the early sticks for flight simulators.
Were they what? Reed switches like that? Not reed, mercury switches.
I don't remember what the system was. I had one briefly.
Okay.
Huh.
Interesting.
Yeah, I like those days in the early 80s and 70s. Everything was just what should we do? What should a joystick be? How do we make something like this? Yeah.
Yeah. And you could there were two kinds. There was the Atari, right? And
Yeah.
then there was those analog ones like that, main system that I remember using those was the Radio Shack color computer.
Oh yeah. Oh man, those were weird. Yeah.
And IBM. When the
Yeah,
IBM
and
came out, its joysticks were analog joysticks.
yeah, and also there was the weird disc on the Intellivision.
Oh, the disc, yes. Yeah, I don't know how
Yeah.
that worked.
Not well. I'm not. I don't want to get people leaving negative comments. It was awesome. It was awesome. I love that thing.
That's funny.
Oh, hello, Adam. The
Oh.
joystick is more robust than the Atari. The Atari have a problem with the plastic inside, and when you use after games many cartridge, you have a problem with the plastic inside that you lost one of the direction because
Right.
inside is not like this. For this is a metal.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had rebuilt the CX40 joystick on the Atari, which is the standard Atari joystick, like many times, and you can still get them parts new old stock from a place called Best Electronics.
Yeah, those things.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I don't know if anyone remembers, but before the CX40, the original 1977 version of the Atari came with something called the CX10, which looked identical on the outside, but the inside of it, instead of like using these push buttons, uses springs, and it's awful, awful. So they redesigned that thing right away, and I have one of those, and it works, but it's not good.
Was it really stiff?
It probably was when it was new, but I
Okay.
mean the springs are so 45 years old now.
Yeah.
Adam,
Yeah.
do you see the serial number and the joystick? What is the number?
know. I have to put on different glasses to do that if there's a serial number.
A serial number.
What do you mean? I don't like
I
molded into the
remember
plastic
that you have a sticker.
on the
I don't
command
remember if
stick.
it was
You mean?
on a sticker or is on.
Are you talking about on the command stick
in
or
the
on a
low
different
part?
I don't
I don't
see
remember
one,
small
I don't see a
silver
number.
sticker.
I mean, if it was a
see
sticker, it might
many
have
years
fallen
ago.
off.
What I remember.
Yeah, I don't see one, but that doesn't mean it's not there. Yeah, I don't see one. If maybe it's if it's ingrained in the plastic, it could be
Okay.
under the sticker. Who knows? Joe, is there
Yes, in the
something?
plastic. Normally, it's in the plastic.
Okay, yeah, I don't see one.
No.
Yeah. I don't know if Shoni remembered that silver serial number on the joystick. You never see that?
What would the serial number tell us?
I've
Gustavo?
never seen one.
Yeah.
Oh,
I have one that Jack gave me, but I've never seen a serial number on them.
okay. I will check I'm on the garage and see if I have printed the sticker. That I remember shots to see only the serial, but as a Timex has a serial number on back, the joystick too has a number.
Really?
Are you talking about the serial number or the model number, like the 2090?
I don't remember. I see a
Okay.
sticker. I remember the sticker only.
Okay.
But I don't remember the content.
Interesting.
That's why every time I see a new joystick, I ask the same question. Okay, do you have a sticker there? Yeah.
Don't know.
Okay.
Well,
That's a
if
mystery.
maybe we can move on from the joysticks, and there was not really an agenda, I guess, but like you wrote down in the meeting notes, Turkey Day programs for Thanksgiving. Not really sure what that means. Other holiday programs, and then whatever projects people are working on. So maybe we can talk about whatever you want to do, David. There, start first.
Well, I'm gonna pivot to David for a second because he has two questions. One, David, can you talk to us about your questions?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. The first question is, how do I access the USB port on the ZX Spectrum Next? Because I've done everything I can think of and I still can't seem to access it. And I'm wondering if because my version of the ZX Spectrum Next is not one that's capable of doing it, or do I need some extra software or whatever?
Okay, so my initial response is there's a USB port on the Spectrum Next.
Yes, there is.
Okay, let's look that up because I don't recall that.
Is Carl in this meeting? I mean, he
In
has that, right?
fact, even on the beginning, even on the quick notes, it says that there's one port that you shouldn't plug anything in it because it's a power port
Yeah.
rather than a data port.
Okay.
So I very carefully covered that one up so I wouldn't make a mistake. But
Oh, right. Okay. The USB ports are for the Raspberry Pi. Next can't see them, which is why you cannot connect to them.
Oh, that's interesting.
Does that help, David?
all I heard was mumble, mumble, mumble. Could you repeat that again?
Sure. The accelerated Next have a Raspberry Pi Zero board inside them, and those have USB sockets, but they're not visible from the Next operating system. They're only available to the Pi.
So how do I
You don't.
access them? I don't.
You don't. They're
That's
not available to
disappointing.
you. That's just a feature of the Pi board itself. Already has them on there, and there's no point in yanking them off just to stick it into the Next.
Okay. And could somebody help me set up the C-spec emulator because I am getting nowhere with it.
Does anybody here use C-spec?
No.
I've never used it. That's a Windows emulator, right, David?
Yeah, it's a Windows emulator for the ZX Spectrum Next.
Well, what is it about C-spec that you are particularly interested in?
Well, I just want to be able to use it, and so far I am getting nowhere with it. So I'm either misunderstanding how to set it up, or it's not what I expected, or
Yeah, okay. If I recall correctly, Zesarux also emulates the Next, and that's a Windows emulator. You just download it to your computer and run it.
yeah. Well, I installed it, but I seem to be getting anything. But the ZX Spectrum Next, the only thing I seem to be getting is a very weak emulation of the ZX Spectrum 48.
But this is with Zesarux?
I believe that's what it's called. Just let me check. I could have told you a lie.
Yeah, that's a good emulator. I've used it, but I've never emulated the Next unit.
Yeah, it's a little.
I mean, the Next is too powerful for me. Forget about it.
Indeed. I concur. It's too powerful for me as well.
Some people here do have some actual Next systems, right? I mean, besides David's.
I had one, and I was not a big fan of it.
Oh,
because I'm not a Spectrum person per se. I
yeah,
really
yeah.
just into the 2068.
You should start a website then.
Maybe I should do that. I should enlist somebody else to digitize tapes though.
I've used the Next both in the original form and Go on the
the Yengo,
museum.
yeah.
On the museum. Eh, what to call it? You have to know what to do with them.
Yep.
Or you only use it as a Spectrum.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
You have any advantage using the Next or the original Spectrum or 2048?
You can use a core for 48K. Not sure about the Timex ones. I only use it like briefly.
Yeah, it's got faster
Yeah,
CPU versions theoretically.
yes, you can run faster, like 20 megahertz. Like put the game on 20 megahertz, making it. It's it's always the ULA is what controls this, so it's always restricted to that speed. But I only tried it with some games like you need to put this game running on the next. I go there, copy it to the card and run it.
Yeah, Carl has one. He's brought it over here, and we messed around with it, but we didn't dig into it too much.
And Jeff Burrell has he has one of each because he couldn't control himself.
Okay, yes, it is called C-spec.
Okay, David, I've never used it, and let me just share my screen real quick. Where am I? Zesarux. Cool. All right, so David, this is Zesarux. And let me just go escape. And
you're running this under a Mac, right?
I'm running it on a Mac, but
Yeah.
it runs on Windows and Linux. Actually, that's the UX portion. Is apparently it's originally written for Linux.
Well, I can't even get what you're showing.
This is not C-spec, David. This is another emulator. And this is the one that I would recommend that you use over C-spec.
Okay, what is it called then?
ZESAR.
Wait just a minute. ZE? As in Edward?
As in
it's written
Edward.
On the screen.
Yeah, it does say on the screen.
Lower line.
Oh.
It says right at the top, it says
Zesarux.
Okay.
And it's such a unique name that you can Google it and be guaranteed to find it.
Okay. Well, I'll give it a try, and it does emulate the Next.
So I'm going to show you exactly how that's done.
Yeah, I just posted I remember watching this video a while back, and it shows you how to set up this emulator.
Okay. So you bring up the menu here, and I just clicked on this. Let me go to escape. I just clicked on this space on the right to bring up the menu, and you go to machine. It's still labeled for Victor Trucco, who's the original person behind the Next, but you click on that and you'll see ZX Spectrum Next as an option. Oh boy.
Yes, I'm listening.
Oh, it's just went, there we go. It's booting. Oof. I'll just skip that portion. I hope that
David, I don't remember if that desktop view is default or not. So
it's not. With
if it's not, you might have to press. Is it F5 to bring up the menu?
I forget which button brings up that view. Let me turn.
Just clicking anywhere in the whole interface will bring up the menu.
That's true. That's right. Yeah.
Because I use it without the desktop all the time.
Yeah. So I'm going to kill this thing off, David, because it's making noises that I don't want to hear. Yeah. So, thanks, Adam. That link that Adam put in the chat, David.
Yes.
That's to a video, right? YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay.
For how to do this. How to use the Next the Zesarux Spectrum. It's really nice. It's a little quirky in some respects, and I prefer Fuse when it comes to trying to load recordings of tapes. Fuse is a little more tolerant of.
But you're talking about real recordings, right?
Yeah, real recordings, exactly. Yeah, it's more tolerant with WAV files than Zesarux seems to be.
But once you have the recording in, you save it out as a TAP file.
I do. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I will. If I can't get a command line, there's some command line utilities that come with you can get with Fuse. And if I can't get a command line utility to read the tape and create a TAP file, I'll go into Fuse and load that thing as a WAV file and save it back out as a TAP file. Works out.
I think that's I think for me, that's the important part is that although there are command line utilities, or indeed other, even maybe things with a GUI,
Mm-hmm.
that say, oh, wave to tap, wave to TZX. Well, that's if you're lucky.
Yes.
And yes, you'll get I mean, all the time oh, you got a TZX file. It's just a bunch of blank blocks or whatever it is. And, but yeah, Fuse, although yes, there's a utility, the Fuse utilities that presumably uses the code. I think the Fuse emulator, calls it multiple times with varying parameters in a smart way that you could do if you kept at it with the command line, I imagine. But it just does it, and it's way better doing it that way. Of course, the downside is it doesn't do 81.
Right. Although 81, the emulator, is really, really good, and especially its wave file loading utility.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if the 81 emulator saves in tab files. I think your only choice is a TZX file.
Or a P file, yes.
Or a P file, yes.
That's correct. Yeah. For the 81/1000 emulation.
Yeah.
81 also does the 2068, but not as well as Fuse does. Yeah.
I'm unfamiliar with how an 81 file is saved in a TZX.
I have no earthly idea except that it does.
Well, I mean, if I crack open a TZX, how am I supposed to know?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I don't know. I have not. I mean, actually, Joe digitized exactly 1 gazillion ZX81/1000 tapes, and he used TZX as the output format. I mean, they load just fine in 81, but I've not tried to cross-load it in Fuse to see if it would crash it. I imagine it would.
Well, but it doesn't support the 81 anyway, so it probably would.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Crash it. Yeah.
Yeah. I just meant in terms of okay, great, TZX, you like that format, but it's kind of annoying then. It's like, well, okay, is it a Spectrum or 81 program?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, that's why we use the naming standard and put the machine that it's for in the name. Or at least I did. I tried to.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they're organized that way. And then you can go into 81, load that TZX file, and save it as a P file. It'll do that really well. But yeah, Ryan, I don't know. I feel like
I have to look it up to see, what indicator is in the file. But then,
there's a substantial header in the file that has information like when it was created, what program created it, and I believe what the program is for, or what machine. So it's in there. It's encoded in there, but it's in there. And I didn't delve deep enough into the format to be able to rattle off exactly how it's. But I'm
okay.
Sure.
And Ryan, like we've been experiencing, or should I say you've been experiencing with the doc files, it's probably, quote, standard and easy to go from one program to another, but really not.
Right, exactly. Hey, Gustavo.
Hi. Okay. Sorry, my internet is delayed. That's why I be sure that never is speaking on me. Sorry. No, I have a question for Shawnee again. It's related to the Tenet availability, because I would like to start with the user of the Tenet, and I have mainly two questions. The first is I don't know how many boards I need to buy to connect in my house. I need one for server, another for client, or one for server, two for client. What is the minimum configuration I need to start at home? That is the first question. And the second question is, you show us the board, the little board, more smaller than the original one of the 2048 machine. And I not see there the 8031 processor apparently mounted on that. The question is, are you using a different processor to run the physical layer?
The processor is there because it's what controls communications. And the smallest Tenet system is one master, one slave. It's what I've been using. Of course, it doesn't give you like a full insight of the network because you're only communicating with one, or one trying to communicate with the master, and I think it's more fun having two slaves than one, only one.
Okay, minimum configuration is 3 boards, right?
No, it's a master and a slave.
Okay.
But it's
okay.
I believe it's more fun to have two slaves than only one. Like
no,
you
yes,
want
understand.
to,
yes, of course.
It's like with one or even two, you can't like, how to say, saturate the network. Only if you are reading large files from a disk, because the FTD is slower than the network, and the master stops accepting requests when it's sending data.
Okay.
Now about the small board, I need to get it because I don't have it here with me. Let me just pick it.
So, Gustavo, from the little documentary that they made, at the very end, they show that board. Maybe the 8031 is the small square, or maybe that's a CPLD. I can't recall.
Or is the CPLD?
Yeah, well, you know what? Johnny's going to show us. So I'm going to spotlight you, Johnny.
Not hear you because it's
okay. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So I've got you spotlighted, Johnny.
So this is the small board. You have the 8031 and the EPROM.
8031 is in deep. Okay. It's there. Okay.
Yes, this is the small FPGA to replace most of the DLS
and we have
72
we have
yeah.
2 ROMs in this board, one for the 8031, another for the C80.
One for the Z80, and you can the 8051 has an internal EPROM.
Okay. It's not like the old board with the EPROM outside.
No.
Okay.
I also have. Let me get another part.
Okay.
All right, well, that makes sense. An 8051, which you can program, versus a 31, which you can't.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. And for Adam's sake, these are Intel microcontrollers.
I'm actually familiar with them.
Microprocessors.
Yeah.
Right. That were real popular for things like keyboards, like the IBM. The initial IBM keyboard has what, a 8049, which is a variant. All right, I'm spotlighting you, Johnny.
So this is the second version Timex was working on.
Okay.
You can see we have the FTD here, some sockets, but almost no components on it. This was to be a gate array they were starting to use. So you have the processors. Actually, this one still has the 2 EPROMs, but on the complete unit we have of this interface, it has an 8051. So we have read the code of it. So you have at least the latest we can have. So
and the connector is 2.5 or 3.5 millimeters. The
what
connectors
connector
of the network.
the network
For the network is 2.5 or 3.5.
2.5.
But you could use any size you want for your own.
Is it smaller like the headphones or the same?
Yeah, it's smaller than headphones.
It's small. It's smaller. Yeah. I'm not sure if they are mechanical the same on the connections because they use less space, right?
Yeah. But is it tip ring sleeve? Is it like a stereo or a mono connector?
Mono. They are mono.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you can see it right, but they are mono.
Okay.
And those were going here on this one. I have 1, 2. This is the FDD connection and the deep switches to configure the position of the network.
And what are you using for the FDD connection? Because that's a pretty weird connector.
What, the 15 pin?
Yeah.
Well, this one has the original
used
by Timex, but we cannot find them, so we use normal ones, and we hacksaw it.
When you say normal, though, it's
the metal one.
Is that a D sub connector, like a
DB15? Yes, the standard with metal. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, but we hacksaw just this little part on the top, and is sufficient to connect.
Okay. And you need an FDD system to work.
Yes, you can use it with the 3-box version or the 3000.
And the second question is on this connector, the signals are compatible with the FDD3, because you remember that some interfaces has different pin out or different mask.
The signals in the 15 pin connector.
Yeah, are the same.
They are all the same. They're all the same.
Okay.
What you can have, it's like not sure if you know the TE of TTL.
I see sometimes on the internet, but I have the original system with the silver version. The idea is to replace the M397 to this. Okay. No, I don't need this interface.
This is the interface designed by the Yarek.
So
really? It's a TE of TTL.
Okay.
Yes, I know you're
it doesn't have the pulse chips. It's all discrete logic, and you can use it to use the FDD with this without having the original hardware.
Okay.
So what does this have? The system communicates with the spectrum by 6 bits. It has 6 bits in, 6 bit out. It's like a serial port. 4 pins are used for data and 2 for controls. Depending, for example, you need to change the low-level communication routine for it to work, because the control pins are connected differently from the original. So you need to make sure you have the correct bit mask of it.
This happened with the Tenet version or not?
I believe the Tenet uses the original bit mask.
The original ROM.
Yeah, because I've tried to use it on this and it crashes.
Oh yes, I remember one of those interfaces used the port 255, for example, the first version of that. I see one time a ROM with using the communication port 245 and not the EF or the
Well,
239.
Gustavo, Johnny's
Yeah.
talking about a board that Yarek Adamski designed, which
Okay.
replicates
the interface.
the interface board, right?
And for any user that not have the system can use this interface or will.
No, he said
with the
that Yarek's
discrete
board doesn't work
component.
with it. So you have to use, as of right now, you have to use the
Okay.
Timex interface board.
No, how can I explain this? This is a bit hard to explain. They are work the same way, but the control bits are connected differently. The data bits are okay, are the same. This one uses bits 6 and 7 to control the data in and out. And this one uses bit 4 and 6.
So would you have to change the ROM on Yarek's?
You only need to change the low-level communication routine.
Okay.
I discovered that because I was not able to make this one work. And I asked and checked the bit mask, and I checked it, and it started to work once I changed it.
The change was made for the Poland market or just only for a Yarek decision?
What, this one?
Yeah.
No, the bit using is for the Poland version of the FDD or just it's a Yarek event?
It works with any FDD.
Ah, okay.
It's only the communication between this and this. The bits count. For example, how can I say? It works with any of them. You can use any FDD with them.
Okay.
You only need to have the correct ROM. And between them, if you use an original one, you have to take care of the control bit. And if you use like this one, you have also to check the control bits.
Okay. But do you know if in Portugal use this bits change or just only in Poland or just only the interface of Yarek?
By now, I only found one version of this interface because you all know the first version with the small boards with the flip-flop.
Yeah.
Later versions were used with gate arrays. Use a gate array inside, and I checked it, and it uses the bit mask of this one.
Ah, okay.
Interesting.
It was kind of
release.
interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know why they changed it, but in any way, you can use any of them with any FDD system.
Ah, okay. Okay, but apparently Yarek used the SCLD version of the interface made by Timex to replicate this in TTL. Just only to understand, yeah.
Timex tried to eliminate the PALs and that complicated with the flip-flop and that crap. So they made a gate array to replace it. Like in the FDD, they used gate arrays on later versions. You know the board inside the controller, the computer of the FDD 3000. They simplified it with gate arrays.
Okay. Interesting.
Great. Interesting. Okay. Perfect.
David,
yeah.
How many people here have that FDD? I mean, it's super, super rare. So
it is super rare.
I have one.
Yeah.
You
okay?
I don't find it super rare. It appears now sometimes someone selling one on the internet. I have 3,000 units and one normal unit that I've been using with Gotex.
Well, in the US, Stuart and
It's much more fun to have 600K discs.
Shani, regarding the Gotek.
Yes.
The normal Gotek firmware does not support 256 bytes per sector. You need to apply any patch or any special version of Gotek?
All formats of the FTD have 16 sectors.
Yes, but I try with the first version of the Gotek emulator that does not support double density.
I've been using them.
Yeah, but this your new. Mine is different color.
I choose one with the OLED because I need to see the file name.
Right.
And which
That's
track.
newer.
Right.
Yeah.
The new ones have flash floppy installed, and the old ones have a BIOS that just has 1.44 meg IBM emulation.
Yes, does not support double density or sector different. That's 512
right. They
per
can
sector.
if you just flash the firmware.
Right.
You need to change the firmware to support that. And there's a product called Flash Floppy that is open source, and I've used it many times.
Oh, okay.
To upgrade.
It's what I use.
So I use them in Amstrads, and basically any machine that had a floppy drive, it'll emulate it if you have the right parameters put in the ini file.
Okay. I will try to refresh. Yeah.
But the Joysticks that you buy today, the ones with the OLED and the rotary encoder built in, already come with flash floppy right from the factory.
Okay, that is the reason, because I discard this and then I move to another platform. This is the French, is the HHC floppy. Yeah.
But they're expensive. And flash floppy is free. So.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Shani, for clarification.
No Adam, you started to ask a question.
So David just asked what my question was. I was just curious about, David was saying how Zebra Systems at one point were selling the FDD as something else, but I kind of knew this, FDD. But yeah, how did that work? And did they actually import them from Portugal, or how did that work?
Yeah, so okay. Imported from Portugal.
Went to the factory and got a tour and got a bunch of things. Stuart says that it was somebody approached him because there was some sort of deal in the works for jet planes, like from Boeing or something, right? And in order for Portugal to be able to get these planes, there needed to be some sort of trade that happened the other way, right? Stuff from Portugal to the US. This is back in the 80s, under the administration of Reagan. And so this person approaches Stuart and says, Timex has this stuff. Are you interested in it? And so Stuart goes over there and looks at it, and he's like, yeah, I'll, bring over. I don't know how many he brought over. That's the problem. And also, there was a company called English Microsystems that used to import spectrums and QLs and stuff like that. They also imported a bunch of FDD3 systems, I think. And I believe that Stuart also brought over FDD3000s. I vaguely recall seeing that in the catalog.
Now, is this like in the late 80s or when they were being released in Portugal?
Late 80s.
Okay.
It'll be about 87, I think.
Okay.
I bought around 86, and I had the silver version with the Zebra. My system is Zebra. It's sold by Zebra.
Well, yes, right. And he made they made a twister board, and the twister board was huge. The original twister board was big. And it was as Gustavo said, it was the silver system, and there were 3 boxes. There was 4
power supply.
There was a little doodad,
controller,
the little interface that connected to the twister, or to the computer rather, and it has a spiral cable that goes off to the actual controller, and then there's a power supply unit that weighs a ton. It's like a brick, and then there's a 3-inch floppy, and they're all encased basically in the same
Exactly.
silver box.
Yeah.
Mine doesn't have the label.
But in Argentina, we have the same version without labels. I don't know why, but I think that was removed locally.
3-inch drives.
Yeah.
Hang on just a second. Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's a 3-inch Hitachi drive, which is what they used.
Single-sided.
Yeah, single-sided. But you could take the disc and flip it over and stick it in and use the other side.
Yeah.
Anytime you see the double side version of those drive in Portugal, or just only single side?
I believe I've seen one once, but stupidly I didn't bought it.
Oh.
Because it was not like this one. It was a bit different button, and I thought, I don't know what that is. I don't want it.
But not Hitachi, right? Or
but
made
then,
by Hitachi.
but the same. It's almost looked like the same, but the front bezel was a bit different, and it was white. The ones I saw.
Okay.
I saw it. It doesn't look like the ones. So I bought like 3 of those and left the other ones there. And then I learned that there was an 80-track 3-inch drive, and I thought, those look like the ones I saw. Yeah.
And Amstrad, I'm sorry, not Amstrad. Amdek also used those 3-inch discs in their biggish box that they sold for. Joe, you're not about to pull one off the shelf, are you? You got your.
You are muted.
No, it's buried right now, so I'm not going to go get it.
I saw you looking. I'm like, what?
I want to see how far back it was, but it's stuck behind some monitors that I just got in, so I'm not going to tear all those down.
Anyway, yeah, Amdek
I remember another. Sorry,
go ahead,
I remember another question for Shoni. On the presentation made by the museum, the project manager for the Tenet, they show us that, for example, send a message from the master station and was received in the student station or slave station, okay?
Yes.
With not interaction. The only way to do that is using the NMI interrupt. And I assume that the mapped in the special ROM for the Tenet should be entered in another extra point, not only the restart 8, you need to add the restart 66. Because it's impossible to use except you modify the ROM.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how it works in the system. I know that you send like a message from the master to a slave, and the slave stops what it's doing until you press OK. You can see the OK briefly on the screen, and that resumes what it was doing.
Exactly. I assume that it is possible using the NMI. That is theory, but maybe I will test it when I receive the boards. Yeah.
I'm not sure
at the
how
66
it works.
address.
Hugo can explain it better because he disassembled the ROM. I'm not really sure how it works. I know, for example, if you send a message from a slave to the master, and if the master is listening to the network, it keeps listening, it receives the message and keeps going.
Interesting.
No, interesting. Really, it's a great work. Not only the museum, but the original works. Both.
Since I don't have like 2 slaves, I don't know really how it works to send one message to a slave, because you can send message to a slave, not to the master. I'm not sure if the master needs to be listening to it. Maybe I try it next week, because we are going to Lisboa Games Week, and we are going to have, I believe, a master and 2 slaves to showcase the system.
Cool.
Oh, okay.
I
Is
have some
an internet
things.
event or is
It's a
private
physical event.
event?
It's a physical event.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you are going to broadcast anything. It's going to be made on our set.
Okay. Not necessarily.
Maybe it is, maybe it isn't.
Okay, so please send
I'm not sure.
Please.
But anyway, I know it's probably going to appear on YouTube. May take a month or
please.
two.
Send my greetings to Hugo Pintos. Okay? And also, congratulations for his work. Hard work on that.
Gustavo,
okay.
He's on Facebook. Sign up for Facebook.
I don't have Facebook.
Then
That is a problem.
You can see what he's doing.
No, I know use of Facebook.
I don't blame you. Yeah. You're not missing much.
Yeah, right, exactly. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the time. You and
then I also know that not all comments, like there are comments related only to the master, but they are not home implemented. It's like the routines are all in the ROM, but maybe they run out of space to implement the interpreter for the commands, so they run on RAM.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay.
But I tried to load them on Slave and they don't work.
Okay, and also I understand that the information
I was trying to reset master from a slave, but you can't do it.
Okay, no, right. But and then the information was published on the website of the museum, right? In any tab or available for the website, or
I published some of the what? I didn't understand the
information about the Tenet and the documentation available or whatever.
It's still forthcoming. I don't think that they've published that yet.
It's not yet published because we have some user manuals, but the user manuals are like a older version because they say that this command do this, but in a version we have, it doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. The same with some commands on that double player, the Tenet catalog. It has some comments, but they mostly don't work that way. So it's pointless to release something that is not updated.
Right.
Like, oh, you need to enter this command to do this, and you enter it, it doesn't accept, right? Because it's not that way anymore.
Okay, yes, the manual is not updating because the most advanced version is the ROM, right?
They still have work to do. Yeah.
I updated some commands on the Timex computer world. Explains some quirks on it, like if you load a block of code, you can't load it to any address. It's going to load to the address saved in the file. Like you say, load this code on 400 address. No, it doesn't load there. It loads where it was saved original.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the update of the Europe continent.
Yeah. Hey, Ryan.
Yeah.
Would you care to update us on your trials and tribulations? I mean, progress?
Progress. Yeah. Define that.
Trials, tribulations, hair pulling.
Well, yeah. Well, I guess maybe I was thinking we were going to talk about that more in the Pico group, but no, just still trying to figure out what's happening. That's what I've been doing right now, is trying to do what I was doing before to see where it's crashing.
Loading maybe we can have David just say what we're talking about, because anyone who jumps into this may not have any idea what the heck Ryan's talking about.
So Ryan got volunteered. We nicely asked Ryan if he would write a sort of menu-based navigator front end for the TS Pico. And because a lot of folks, they just want to turn it on, load some programs, games
from an SD card.
Right. And loading with the TS Pico is sort of a two-step process. You have to do this first step, which is the equivalent of physically putting a cassette into your cassette player, right? You have to mount the file. And then once you've done that, you can, just like a cassette player, you can load the contents of that file. But it's a two-step process. It's one where if you make a typo, it can go sideways. And so
pretty sideways.
What's that?
Pretty much, very much
pretty sideways,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Not in a fun, way. And so Ryan, we asked him if he'd be interested in doing this thing. And I believe there may have been a mild bit of enthusiasm in the yes. And I'm pretty sure that we've managed to stomp that down to just a yes. But along the way, Ryan has really sort of tested the boundaries of the Pico and the ways in which it cannot be a friendly device. And so he has a lot of back and forth with Ricardo, who's the primary developer, who's writing the Python code that actually runs on the Pico. And Ryan's discovered ways in which it's not working, and he and Ricardo have communicated and tried to come up with various solutions, and that's resulted in at least one new command on the Pico, which is kind of nifty. And it's just a little command that you send to the Pico and say, "Are you busy?" And if the Pico's not, it responds. And if it's busy, obviously it doesn't respond. And then you can just use an on error statement to wait for that to time out. And then go about your business.
Yeah, so the new nifty command does nothing.
Nothing, right? It really is.
But the thing is that because of the limited communication, the only real way of detecting kind of what's really going on is, well, you're not really detecting what's going on. You've got this error process where it's busy or it's not. And if it's busy, you get an error. And so we created a no-op command so it just doesn't have any consequence when you issue it, other than if it succeeds, absolutely nothing happens as a side effect. But that if it's busy, it'll return an error. So you have to use an on-error handler to work with this. And the idea is that you issue the no-op command with on-error handling on, and your error routine. Ideally, you get to a place where your error routine just says, "Okay, got the error. Keep trying the no-op command until I don't get an error." Then the Pico is not busy. At that point, you can issue another command. And then when you want to issue another command, you first issue the no-op and wait for it to clear. Then you can issue a regular command. And that way you don't have to worry about, did I pause long enough after a command? Because the way the Pico works is it returns to basic before the command might be complete. And so this is the way we currently had to be able to synchronize with that. Because otherwise, if you issue another command, you're just going to get an error. The problem I'm having right now, though, is that the Pico is dying doing a certain operation. So my on-error handling also looks at how long it's been in an error condition, and then just says at some point it declares, okay, we're timing out, calling the Pico dead, and then stopping. And currently that's happening when loading doc files. So the normal operation, well, the operation of loading TAP files seems to be pretty solid. So it's odd to me why it's failing loading doc files, given that the last time I looked, and that's why I'm trying to verify now, the last time I looked, it was failing on reading of the file from the SD card. I think it was the SD, yeah. It was reading the file from the SD card. It wasn't that, there was something, something wrong with the doc file is a completely separate issue from this. Okay. This is a failure in reading a file. At least it was. I'm trying to verify it's still the case given some of the changes that have been made.
Yeah, that's something that should be brought up here too. Is almost daily, well, maybe every couple of days, there's constant updates to the way that Pico works behind the scenes. So Ryan is sort of like working, like I have a Pico that has a different version of the firmware than Ryan does, and Ryan was over here last weekend, and we were trying to figure out the differences and why on the old firmware what he was trying to do worked, and on the new firmware it didn't. And I think he ironed that out. Is that correct?
Well, no, I haven't, because Ricardo was going to look at the differences, but probably what we need to do now that I've got a little bit more robust tester program is try that again.
Okay.
I was able to load the old firmware in mine, and it seemed to behave like when I was at your place.
Okay.
So I might be able to try that, which was, we may not have let it run long enough.
We let it run like 10 minutes. And on yours, it like could fail in like 10 seconds.
But the new update Ricardo gave me, it would sometimes go longer.
Okay.
So it seemed to be better, but then other times it'll be quick. And so then the confusion on the discussion list has been about doc files. Okay. And this is not a doc file problem in terms of format. That can certainly screw you up when you're trying to test things, because there's different configurations of them. But this seemed to, before I basically nail it down to, hey, this read statement is failing. That's not has anything to do with what kind of doc file we got here.
I do want to make one clarification too, just in case people have no idea what a doc file is. That's like in an emulator. Those are what the cartridges. That's their extension, DCK.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a wrapper. It's a format that's a loose wrapper around largely ROM data that would be on the chips in a cartridge. The header basically specifies what type of, whether it's ROM or RAM, the data is for, and which of the 8K banks are used, and which are ROM or RAM, to basically emulate, I guess, the circuitry on the card that would tell the computer, hey, this bank has something in it, right? And so for example, if you had a cartridge that just had that had 16K, that had the first two banks, those would be electronically wired on a real cartridge to tell the computer, hey, there's just two 8K banks here, in the doc bank of memory. And so the files, since the files are for emulation, well, of course, hardware like the Pico kind of changes that game a little bit. But anyway, the software, it doesn't have the circuit that tells it automatically. So the header was to say, hey, there's two 8K chunks here, and they belong in the first two chunks, so that it maps them in the correct space in memory. So once you've got that, then the contents of memory those come into play. So for Timex cartridges, you had the LROS and AROS types. Okay, and so the AROS types were basically the basic programs on a cartridge, and I think that those resided in, was it starting at the 32K boundary?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And they were typically like, 1 or 2 8K chunks.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that the computer knew that's what that was, when the cartridge is in there, it says, "Oh, you're in bank, what's that for?" It would look at the beginning of that memory for certain bytes that would tell it there would be values there, and one value had to be there to tell it, okay, this is an AROS cartridge. And then it could say, all right, well then what location do I need to start looking at for the basic program? And then an LROS cartridge, very similar, except I guess that tended to reside in the bank 0. Is that right, David?
Yeah, it could start at bank 0. Yeah.
And well, I don't know. See, that was my question: is how does it know where to start if it's not at 0?
Right. If it's not at 0, then the other chunks would be enabled. I'm trying to pull this off the top of my head.
I mean, is it either chunk 0 or chunk 4? Is that?
Well, it's.
I couldn't figure out why.
When the Timex starts up, it goes out and it looks for a set of signature bytes at 4,000 hex, I believe, and at 0 hex. If it finds a sentinel at 0, then it assumes that it's an LROS and it starts the LROS procedure. If it's looking at if it's looking up at 4,000 and finds a signature there, it assumes that it's an AROS. So it checks, am I an LROS? No. Am I an AROS? Yes.
Yeah.
And then it uses the headers to determine where the code is. Now, in the case of an LROS, it just starts executing machine code.
Right.
And also, you need always enable the chunk tree for home.
Right.
Dependent of you have any selection at the address or header, because if you can hang the computer during the boot and never finish the booting.
So
because no stack, no variables, nothing. You
what happens?
always need to enable the chunk tree in home.
So what happens if it's just a ROM cartridge? It's not an LROS. Does it have, if it's a cartridge and it has something in bank 0, does it have to have an LROS header or not? Because I thought I've seen some that don't have an LROS header.
But remember, in an emulator, you have all RAM. Does not exist ROM. Okay, that is an logic interpretation. Okay, if you put a DCK in an emulator, when you read the data, maybe, I don't know if you have a block protected by a software, not by hardware. And if you design a ROM, you can determine that this block cannot write, okay, using the low-level emulator routines. But in the real life with the computer you cannot replace in a cartridge. The cartridge only are accepted in the dock bank. You don't have any possibility to move the cartridge and another banks except the only bank number 1.
Ryan.
That is the logic.
I'm not talking about it. Okay, I'm not talking about emulator right now. I'm talking about the hardware. So you're saying that an actual cartridge in the hardware port can only ever be in the dock bank? Is that true?
Only ever be.
Yes. For example, the ARCO interface use full dock bank and works.
Okay. And
Brian, to your point, yes, you can take a Spectrum ROM, put it on a cartridge, and stick it in your 2068, and you turn on the 2068, and nothing will happen because it doesn't have an AROS header, nor does it have an LROS header. So
basically by accident,
the 2068 just ignores it. Okay.
No. What I mean is it has content there.
It does, yes, but it's not an AROS
but it
header.
just happened to not have the right bytes
That's correct.
there to trigger to falsely say it's an AROS or LROS.
Right, exactly, yes.
But remember, the DCK file can handle the RAM banks or ROM banks image data. Okay.
Okay,
You have,
yes,
for
but
example,
that's for an emulator, and that's not
okay.
what we're not talking.
I get that. I gotta come to that. Okay. Now, some doc files, all doc files, the first byte says what bank it's for. So my question is, if the cartridge port is doc bank only, which you said was true, right? I believe, and is it true that via the bus, you could have something that I could have maybe make another kind of cartridge interface, if you will, that could occupy other banks. Is that possible?
You can have a cartridge that will occupy either the dock bank or the XROM bank, but not the home ROM. You can't replace the home ROM or the home bank.
Wait. Okay. You say cartridge.
I do. I say cartridge, yes.
Cartridge in the cartridge port.
Yes.
Cartridge.
Yes.
Okay. So XROM or dock.
Or dock.
Okay. But not home.
But not home.
But can you replace home via the bus, full bus? No. You cannot.
No.
Only replace the first 16K only at home.
Well, hold on. Let's be clear about this. If you're using the rear bus of the 2068, you can do anything you want.
True.
No, well, no. Okay. That's my question.
Yeah.
All right.
And that's how the Pico works.
If you can do that, then the next question is, can the Pico do that? It sounds like the answer is yes.
Yeah, that's what the Pico does.
Okay, therefore, ultimately, the Pico should be able to support doc files that replace parts of home and XROM and doc, right? Is that correct? It may not do it now. It may not do it now.
But to maintain the compatibility with the screen, you need always the chunk number 2 enabled from home, because you've lost any right character on the screen.
Okay, but
independent of the info.
Set that aside for now, because that's not an issue.
Okay, but that's just a constraint on it. Okay. But generally, you could replace it. Now, I guess because of that, you have to do some trickery if you're trying to replace the entire 64K space. You need to be sort of jockeying that. But anyway, we don't want to get into that detail. The point is that there are doc files that have specifications for different banks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know this. I don't know what the difference is. So, like, for example, there's the Hot Z. There's two versions. One that's doc bank, one that's XROM, and I don't know how that winds up being different at all. For example.
Yeah, and I was
really necessary.
I don't think that's necessary to worry about the XROM version of Hot Z.
Unless that's because then, the XROM lives in XROM. So if you're doing things with doc bank, it could still live there, and you can switch to it because it's after all a development tool. So that could be why. But anyway, point is that header specifies which bank that the data is for, and then it specifies which chunks, for each of the 8K chunks, are they ROM or RAM, or should be ROM or RAM, which really means should it be allowed to write to that block,
mm-hmm.
As if it would basically say, hey, I'm defining this block to be on the cartridge, and you could read and write. So it would be as if I'd put in a piece of RAM. And then that byte also specifies whether you will find data for that 8K chunk in the file. Okay. So you could have the header just say, you know, hey, there's absolutely no data after the header, and it just says, hey, it's all RAM. And so the emulator just says, okay, I'm gonna have 64K that I'm gonna allow you to read and write to in the doc bank, for example. And then the file doesn't have to have any data after that. But most doc files are some sort of ROM, and it says, okay, there's 2 chunks of ROM, and then the rest are not defined. And so you'll find 2 8K chunks following the header in the file. And so then you load those into the correct memory space of your emulator or your hardware, in this case. And then that puts it in memory. Then whatever's in memory, as we discussed a minute ago, then the computer comes in and says, oh, what's in memory? And it looks for these LROS, AROS headers. Okay. And so basically what we're doing with the Pico is using the doc file to contain the data to load it into memory space. And so we look at the doc header to say how we need to load it into memory. And then and once we've done that, the computer is going to, when it executes, it's going to look at that memory and then do its usual thing of, it thinks that there's a cartridge in the port, for example, that the Pico is providing via the bus. So when it goes to query that, it says, okay, do I see an LROS header? Yes or no. Do I see an AROS header? Yes or no. That's basically how that works, to my understanding. And so the problem has been is that you go grab random doc files off the internet, you get things that are constructed oddly in a few cases. And so initially it was that some were just simply, they had RAM chunks defined. And so the Pico loader would just look at that and say, no, I'm not supporting that. And it would just kick it out, not load it, and give an error. But it was a non-crashing error. It was just, can't load this. So you weed all those files out that it's just not going to load anyway. And then you have a few that are odd, but some things seem to work, but maybe, who knows, they might fail at some point. Where I think was there only one example I found where the AROS header
and the doc header
was not consistent with the doc definitions.
Yeah, that was that RWP.
Which basically that's fine once things are loaded. Okay, it depends on what the code expects. So in that case, the doc file said, hey, here's 2 chunks, 2 8K chunks in the file that are at 4,000, 6,000 hex. And then that's it. That's all it defined. And then the first one had an AROS header. So the 4,000 chunk had an AROS header. And if you read that, it says, yeah, I'm going to use, chunks 4, 5, and 6. Well, chunk 6 wasn't in the doc file. So chunk 6 that it's going to use, it says it's going to use, is just going to have whatever that memory had because the doc file didn't provide it. Now, I don't know if that was because that program never had that data or someone who made the doc file screwed up.
But Ryan, determinate if the full decoded or not the memory inside the dock. Because sometimes, for example, as XROM, if you enable more than one single chunk in the XROM, you see replicate the same starting XROM in the different part of the XROM bank. Okay, maybe
fully
exactly. Maybe the cartridge has the same problem.
let me put a little time out on the technical depth here. So Ryan, the upshot is you're discovering challenges with a bunch of these doc files, and
Yeah.
we're trying to resolve them and make it so
Yeah.
that
So there's
people can load them
there's
properly.
basically a layer of there's doc files that have who are defined in ways we need to understand.
Yeah.
Then the main problem though is the Pico just failing to read them. So not the problem ones, but anyone. So I can sit there and I have my thing loop over the files, and it'll load. So it'll load some fine a bunch of times and then fail. The one that fails on are things that has loaded plenty of times successfully in the past. And then when I went down into the code trying to debug it, which all I could do is very primitive, is find out it's failing reading the file. Nothing to do with the doc header or format. It's just reading a file in this fashion.
Now that you say that it managed to load. Now that I've actually heard you say this, it's clear. This may be a memory leak issue that we can talk about on. Gustavo, hold on. Gustavo, hold on.
Okay.
Because and what I'm gonna say is, we're gonna take it to the Pico meeting on Wednesday.
Yeah. So so to keep it for this meeting, basically the upshot is that whole aspect. This is apparently only happening on doc files for some reason. I've never had problems with tap files that I can recall.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not quite clear why that is the case, but anyway, so that aspect of the program that you started out talking about is that, you can't use it for that reliably at all. At least in my experience, and it seemed to be replicated or not replicated. I guess not replicated. No, what I meant to say was with the newer firmware. Okay. That's what I mean.
Okay.
So, but as far as loading tap files, everything seems pretty good.
Okay. Just so I'm clear in my own mind, Ryan, you can bring up your menu, load tap files, and that seems to work just fine, correct?
Right.
Okay. And it's just loading doc files, although I suspect that's the wrong vowel. That's where the problem is. And what I would say is, if that's the issue, table doc files, for the immediate future, like until the heat death of the universe, and then just concentrate on getting something out that will load tap files, because really that's the low-hanging fruit, and where I think most people would really be interested in. And then we can sort out doc files later.
Well, I suggested that to Ricardo. He didn't. He wants to ship a basic doc functionality, even if it's not 100%. He seems to think that it's a just me problem, is what I suspect. But I don't want to be unfair.
Like it's a memory problem.
And that, he feels somehow, his last post, somehow, I think he still thinks that it's just it sounded like he was asking, hey, is it just a problem where you didn't wait long enough after the command to finish before issuing another command, and you wouldn't see this if you were just typing it at the command line and not in a basic program? I said, well, no, the whole point of the no-op command was I wait to see for the Pico to not be busy and then do it. And so, but none of that was ever crashing the Pico. Okay. Asking it, is it busy? Is it busy? This is the Pico just dying on its own. So it's
and the fact that you're like loading it, 5 times, and after a certain number, it starts to, it dies. That suggests, suggests a memory problem on the Pico side.
Well, here's my 2 cents on this, and I'll bring this up on the Wednesday meeting. We are customer focused, not dev focused. And if, I think this whole menuing system would be a huge boon to the community. and doc files are something that can wait.
Yeah. Yeah, we can ship a version 1 and we can ship a version 1.1. Yeah, exactly.
Right, and it's especially easy because this is a file that you simply load onto the SD card. It's not like you have to change any of the Python code.
Yep. Yeah. It's just a program that comes from Ryan, and we download it. Cool. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for the in-depth discussion, and Jeff and Gustavo. I want to check in with the rest of y'all and see.
I've actually got one thing to bring up.
Yeah, go ahead. Thank you.
To fill the time. All right. I've been working. So a while back, I ported ZX Basic over to the 2068, had it working. I got a hold of another program somebody else wrote, in ZX Basic to test out and port over.
When you say ZX Basic,
this is the Boreal compiler.
Oh, okay. Very cool. All right.
So, and I ran across a particular basic command that will crash on the 26-8, but not the Spectrum. So I basically have two versions of Boreal, the ZX Basic, one for Spectrum, one for 26-8, one modified, one unmodified. Unmodified, I compile it, and it runs just fine under Zesarux and the Spectrum. On the 26-8, hits the string function and basically dies, crashes the machine. I did find out that if you use the string function but never use the variable later, it actually doesn't run the string function. Because why is it working in this case but not that case? Oh, because it never actually runs it. But anyhow, so it's a simple, as soon as string function runs, it crashes. I've looked at all the code. What it does is the low-level stuff is basically, you've got that particular function, it's going to be this ASM file to include, and then this ASM file to include, and so on. So you can actually have ZX Basic output to an assembly listing before it compiles into, assembles into a TAP file. So I went through all the assembly files looking for more calls to the ROM. I found a couple I missed, thought that might have been it. Nope, it still fails. So I can't figure out exactly why the string function crashes. And the only thing I think would cause a crash would be a call to a wrong ROM location. Everything else should just generally work. So I'm sort of at and hit a roadblock. I'm hoping that I'll get someone to volunteer to kind of take a look at this for me. I tried stepping through with Zesarux the assembly, but the emulator doesn't step through your code; it steps through the emulator. So it's constantly spending time in the ROM. I'm like, because you can do a one step, so you hit return, and it's like it goes through the next assembly bit.
Yeah.
But when you spend all this time in the ROM, you're not really getting your code unless you sit there for the next 3 hours going step at a time.
Can you set breakpoints in?
I can help you.
That's what I had to do. I think was put a breakpoint after the call, so then I just let it go, and it'll come and stop there.
I got to figure out where to put the breakpoint. It's like, okay, where is it failing? If I knew it was failing, I would have the problem. It's making a certain call, but I don't know where it's failing. I know roughly where it's failing, but how to set the breakpoint, not too sure. I got to look into that. But everything is a bunch of ASM files, and I looked everywhere in there for any additional ROM locations. I even verified that, this Spectrum ROM location translate to this Timex Spectrum ROM location, Timex ROM location, verified all of that. So I can't figure out why it's failing. It's just a simple string function. I did take the code that was failing, remove the string function, and it runs fine. So I know it's that function. It's causing the problem.
I can help you.
Say again?
I can help you. Yes, I can help you related to the assembly part of the ROMs. If you can isolate the instruction that failed, I would like to see the basic and also the compiler version.
Sure. I've got that. I've got the base. I can send you the basic, the assembly output, and also
just only the part fail. I don't need to see all the code except the single line. If you can create a
Yeah,
basic
so
program with a single
what I've
line.
got is that
And
I've got a test program that sets a variable and then converts that variable into a string and then prints out the variable. If you don't
yeah,
print out the variable, it won't do anything. It doesn't try and make that string call. It goes, oh, you never use this. I'm not going to do anything.
Not going to
So it's
include
a
it.
3-line basic program, set a variable, convert it to a string, print the string, and then it crashes. So I've got that.
okay. When you compile the basic, you can also set up the address to put the code, the assembly code, or just only the compiler decide
Only yeah,
the
yeah.
started
As
location.
far as I know, the compiler pretty much decides that. It's interesting is that the assembly language, the .asm file is like 6K for a 3-line basic because all the runtime environment.
Okay.
So I think I can't remember how big the tap file is. But it's pretty good sized. Or is it 6K for the tap and 56K for the assembly? I'll go look at it. So Gustavo, I'll send you the assembly, the original .basic, the assembly, and the tap file. If you need know more about ZX Basic, let me know. It's downloadable. Then on my website, I have I have to update it actually for the few that I missed. Basically, the only I ported was I went and found the files that had to be changed and just basically changed them manually. So there was no technical port. It's just that I just went in and found the code, and I actually commented where it says Spectrum ROM, 2068 ROM, and just replaced it. So it's a bit of a kludge, but it works most of the time.
Well, is this an issue with the call being in the XROM potentially?
No.
All the function are in the COM. The string and also yes, yeah.
So there's 2 areas I did not port over was the load and save function because I'm not sure how to because the load and save in the Spectrum ROM are on a normal location. In the 26 state, they're in the EX ROM. And I wasn't too sure, like, well, why do you call that location? How is it really calling the EX ROM and not the regular ROM? So I didn't touch the load and save. I figured it's not necessary for if you're porting over a game, it's not going to do load and save. So, its own files. So that's probably
I assume that is a compiler error. Apparently, it's a compiler error because if he called to the XROM, that's wrong. Always the standard ROM include
So
the Spectrum functionality except the tape and the bank switching logic. You don't need to call nothing and the XROM to do a translation between a Spectrum and Timex.
Okay. What I can also do is I can take that 3-line example program, put over the Spectrum version, compile those, give you the compiled and the assembly that so you can kind of compare maybe. Anyhow, I'll send those off to you a little bit later, Gustavo.
Okay, send to me and also maybe tomorrow I have news for you.
Okay. So I'm having a problem. Apparently Thunderbird is now installed with Ubuntu as a snap, and there's something called App Armor, and it's not letting me do attachments in Thunderbird. So I got to figure that out. I spent all day yesterday trying to. You turn off App Armor and nothing works.
Oh.
None of your snap stuff works. Oh, why did they ever do this? What a horrible. I want to basically take the person out and shoot him whoever created this App Armor thing. It was running fine. There must have been an update the other day, and now I can't do anything with Thunderbird as far as attachments. So I've got workarounds, but I'm gonna have to go fight that battle.
You run this compiler in a PC computer, or you run?
Yes, they run. It's a Python, bunch of Python scripts.
Okay.
Yeah. So I run it under Linux, but it should work under other platforms too. It's just Python.
Yeah.
Okay, please. I don't have Unix here or Linux, but if you send to me the binary and also the information, it's perfect. Send to me.
Yeah, I'll send you the tap file, the .bas and .asm. So,
exactly.
Okay, I can do that.
Gustavo, I put links to the 2 main places about ZX Basic, and then some folks still call it Boreal Basic, but it's, as Tim was saying, it's this sort of cross compiler. It runs on your your home computer, Gustavo, you sent that to me. You need to send it to.
Okay, sorry. I sent to you my
Um,
email. Please share with the group.
It's cross compiler, so it runs on Windows, Mac, Linux, because it's written in
Okay.
Python. And not somebody, a guy in Spain wrote a book about it for people who want to learn how to use it. I purchased the book. It's really well written. It is 678 pages.
Wow.
But yeah, it's like Tim said, it's a really cool thing.
Was created in Spanish?
He wrote originally in Spanish,
In
yes,
Spain?
and then translated it into English. Yeah. So that you can
Okay.
also, there's a Spanish version available on Amazon right there.
I didn't realize there was a basic book on that. That's something I might look into.
Yeah, the book is great.
But
The book is really fantastic.
when you create the compiler version, you maybe started for a tab file, or how you move the basic program to the compiler as an input?
No, you basically run the compiler like any compiler with a couple different options. The last thing, of course, the .bas file. Basically, add a loader. There's T, B, and something. But you can also do just a capital A, which you just do assembly output. So you can see what the assembly looks like before it goes into the being assembled into the tap file. Does that answer your question on that?
No, the input. The input is, you, for example, do the basic program. You save it as a tab file, or
No,
send
it's
it
an
a
ASCII file.
Text file. .bas
ASCII.
text file.
Oh, okay. You create a basic file, typing in the text editor,
Yes.
Yep.
and then the system use a compiler of this with the Timex or Sinclair syntax, right?
Yes.
Yep.
You not compile from the binary. You compile for
No.
the listing, correct?
Yes.
Correct. In fact,
Okay.
Boreal Basic is a combination of Sinclair Basic and Free Basic. It is not 100% Sinclair Basic supported, meaning the input command will not work. You have to use a different style of input command for one. So it's a combination. I think a lot of people that are programming in it are actually doing it without line numbers, treating it strictly as almost like Free Basic mixing with Sinclair Basic. So yeah, it's just
you have an output and text file, right?
Yep,
You have a text file
I'll
with
send
the
you
assembly
text
language.
file. Text file, the assembly language,
Yeah, the output.
file, and then the tap file.
Okay, and you have a switch in the compiler to set up the 2068 version, right?
No, I basically have I've installed two versions. You can put it in different different directories, and then I run say go run the local version of this command, and then I've modified the library files to do 2068. So if I wanted to spec,
maybe that is the ROM. Okay.
So yeah,
okay.
I have two installs. Whatever directory I'm in, I run the local one, and then if I'm in the 2068 directory, run the local one, it'll generate 2068 code. If I'm in the Spectrum directory, run the local one, it'll generate Spectrum code. That was the easiest.
Okay, and you in the Spectrum directory of your copy works, and when you compile with the translation or with the modification library, does not work.
Correct.
Very simple. Okay.
Yeah,
If
so
we
I
have the
think it's
yeah.
I think there's a ROM call I'm missing, but I can't find it.
Very easy to determine the problem. Send to me today, and maybe I respond for tomorrow.
Yeah, no problem. I know. Yeah, you've got a few more hours on me, but I'll send it to you fairly in a little bit. All right. And I wrote down your email address. So, all right.
Thank you, Tim.
And thanks,
Tim. That's crazy that you worked on that, because that was one thing that I was like, it'd be great if we had Boreal Basic for the 2068.
Now I noticed that some programs, Boreal Basic supports the Spectrum 128, and I'm like, I don't know if we could. So I haven't seen anything in the assembly code. I haven't really looked, I guess, that would how to convert the 128 stuff to 2068 for the AY chip differences. So right now, I'm more
just
thinking
the port number.
Yeah, but I didn't really look in the code. I was focused on just the 48K. Well, it's just adding the 128 would be a little more involved. I think there might be some other places I have to look to get those port numbers. But the first step was just get it working for the 40, aimed at 48K stuff. So, and I thought it hadn't worked until I ran this one. Like, oh, why did it crash? Oh, there's a problem. So, we're getting there.
That's fantastic. That's so cool.
Remember, we're working on the low level team.
Anybody else? Want to jump in and tell us what y'all been doing? I know Joe is a buried Joe with more tapes.
No, but just only a minor clarification to Ryan regarding the why you have an AROS cartridge with more than different chunks enabled or information of that. Exists one of the very advanced mode of AROS is if you have a binary variables copy on another part of the cartridge space. And the theory to work with this is your code need to move this particular image to the system variable area to use in the cartridge program, because you can replace the variables on the fly. This is a very advanced method. I don't know if in this case, but
it's not
this
this
is
case.
another.
The case
Okay.
that Ryan is talking about is not that case.
Okay.
Yeah, we can talk about that more on Wednesday.
Okay.
And not trouble Adam. Adam, your mic is switched off even though your Zoom is on.
No, okay, agree.
Oh no, I was just telling Adam. So Adam said that I had said the potential for Turkey Day programs, and I have failed in that mission. I forgot to go look for Turkey Day programs. I suspect Ryan does not have one immediately handy. So
sadly, no.
I tried to generate one with ChatGPT. It didn't do a very good job.
Well, yeah, ChatGPT is good at Python. It's not great at BASIC, or at least variations of BASIC.
Well, Peyton, can you all hear me now, by the way?
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that. I didn't realize I switched off my mic. You've been very excited, and in the last meeting you were saying that you were using your 2068 a lot. What have you been doing over the last 2 weeks?
Well, the last week or two hasn't been too busy with it, but I've slowly just been kind of working my way through the manual, learning how to actually use it, the user manual.
Okay.
Figured once I get through that, I'd jump into the beginner intermediate guide. But I did take a side step and started playing with the Pico, and so loaded up, a bunch of games and was kind of playing with that. And it's really neat. It's pretty awesome having such a modern, kind of interface accessibility.
So, Peyton, let me warn you a little bit about, I think you have the blue book that is about the Timex. The title is something about Timex Sinclair 2000.
Oh,
right?
okay, yeah.
That originally is a book about the Spectrum, and you're gonna have to turn off your filtering for this to work.
Yeah.
That book's originally about the Spectrum, and I think they got a little bit of information about the 2000, but it was written and published in this sort of limbo period before the 2068 was sort of the solved machine, and so it's not super accurate. As a matter of fact, one of the books that I think Jack Boatwright sent me is a Spectrum title, and on the front is this little sticker that has the title that it's going to become when it gets published for the Timex 2000. and I don't think they plan to make any changes to the text of the book as well. Because there was a point in time where the 2000 was essentially going to be a Spectrum, but then they added the sound chip and they added the XROM and they made all these other changes. So that book in particular, the Blue Book, the authors of both the basic and advanced guides, let's see, Fred Blackman maybe, and Jeff Mazer, both of them had access to some version of the 2068 when they wrote their books. And
Did
so
you get the original Timex manual?
Yeah, he has that.
There's a lot of meat in it if you know how to dig for it.
Oh yeah, it's
Oh yeah,
fantastic.
I've been working my way through. Let's see, how far am I? I've gotten basically up to the programming piece where, I do scripting for work, but never really, done a lot of programming. So just kind of working through that, and it's been fun.
When you say you do
Hmm.
scripting for work,
Okay.
Unix or Windows?
More Windows, a little bit of
Okay.
Unix, but yeah, system administration, stuff like that.
Okay.
So a lot of PowerShell. So, I mean, I'm familiar enough with the concepts. I just don't typically go write my own programs.
Well, basic for loops are a lot easier and simpler than bash for loops.
hmm
David, do you remember the date that Timex closed the ROM source to create the ROM?
No, I don't know. I don't know when they finalized that per se. Although
I have a
it has
hold
to be,
between
it has
May.
to be.
I have a hold for May till September. I don't know exact date when we created, or I don't know.
I don't know. I'm trying to think if there's anything in the documents that Lon shared with us that would have that information.
Because Long have in the document in the notebook many comments or some with dates.
Yeah.
But some of those right are put on the ROM in the final version of the ROM, the only version of the ROM. Okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
some not. That's why I will try to determine what is the due date that we go to factory and with this version. Okay, I don't know. This happens after CAT, the bank switching functionality. Remember that is bypassed in the ROM.
Right.
Okay, this was created by a programmer. Apparently exists a previous release with all the banking enabled of that.
Yeah.
Never was published. Yeah.
that documentation might exist somewhere. It might be with the stuff that the Load ZX museum has. It's very possible.
Okay. We need to ask, I don't know, Shawnee or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll inquire with them. So it's almost 4:00. Adam has reminded me. Our next meeting is Monday the 2nd at 9 p.m. Eastern. You do the math for your time zone. I don't know. I gave up on time zones. I have a hard enough time with my own.
So did Arizona. They gave up on time zones as well. Well, not time zones, I guess. Daylight savings.
Daylight savings. Right. So that's the next Monday meeting. I just want to double check when the next Sunday meeting is going to be the 15th. So middle of the month. Wow, that's crazy. All right. So let's say for Monday's meeting, if you feel so inclined to dig up some old program or write a new program that is holiday themed, bring it to the December 2nd meeting, and we'll somehow manage to get it on the screen. And if you come up with something that you want to talk about at that meeting, send it to the groups.io list, and we will try to address your question at that meeting. I don't know if David is still here. Maybe we can talk about emulators again. I mean, we did talk about emulators once a while back. Maybe we can, circle back to that and talk about that. So, with that, does anybody have any last minute requests? Things they want to say?
Okay.
Okay.
I forgot.
Go ahead, Ryan.
If I forgot, I think I teased this before, perhaps. I have a vague memory now of I told Adam about this. It was
Yes.
Oh, David, you
But
got my update on that yellow card?
hang on just a sec. Go ahead, Ryan.
it still needs a lot of work. Well, basically, I took that idea of the font. You had the pixelated font.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is like a.
And so I wanted to imagine, well, what if you had one that looked like it but wasn't pixelated?
Wow. How long did it take you? You know what? Actually, Ryan, can we talk about this on the Monday meeting?
Yeah, we
Upcoming
could.
Monday meeting, you'll have more time to work on this, and you can.
Yeah, the font doesn't really work.
Okay.
The I don't know. I got to understand more about the metrics so that the file will be more usable.
Okay.
But anyway, so it was sort of a different take of like, well, you could use the pixelated one, but it's kind of fun for 10 minutes.
But yeah, okay. So
anyway, so that's all. Just a tease.
Cool. Yeah, let's talk about that. And Paul, you were gonna say.
I sent you an updated file on that ZX81 foldout.
The Nanos. Was it Nanos?
Yes.
Yeah, the Nanos
Apparently
card.
he and his wife are still around.
We should see if they want to attend and explain that card.
That, or does he have any left in the garage?
That would be amusing as well. Yes. Yes. And for those who don't know what Paul's talking about, there was a company that put out a fold out reference card, third party reference card for the 81/1000, probably around 1980 or 81.
81, 82.
Yeah. It was real popular. It was like $5, and I've seen a bunch of them, for sale on eBay and stuff. So, but Paul scanned it, and we'll get it uploaded to archive.org, which is now accepting files again. So good news there.
Right. When did they stop accepting files?
Oh, when it went down.
Yeah, when it got hacked.
And then they brought it back up. It was they brought it back up in a state where you could view stuff, but you couldn't upload new stuff. And that's changed within the past couple of days. And so I've started uploading stuff that Joe has been archiving. Okay. Gentlemen?
Someone did PDF it before, but not to the quality that I sent you.
Not very good. Yeah. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Not very good.
Yeah. Okay. With that, I'll see you in, I don't know, maybe it's 2 weeks.
Roughly.
Let's look. Let's see if I can just.
After the tryptophan wears off.
Yeah. 1, 2, yeah, roughly 2 weeks. And we'll talk Christmas holiday themed programs. We'll bring out Ryan's Inchworm Christmas celebration program for the ZX81.
Yeah, I guess I might have shown it briefly, but there was at least one on that Fort Worth library tape.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, we've got a couple of yours. There's 2 that you did that we know about.
Well, no, I mean not mine. There was 1 or 2 other from other people.
Oh yeah.
I think
I'll try to collate all of them, because we've got some for the 1000. We've got 1 or 2 for the 2068. and we'll roast chestnuts by the open 2068 fire. All right, thank you guys.